all of the marble facade is gone. Window glass has some problems, but here we'll notice that the outer pane is broken, but not the inner pane. And the facade of the building is otherwise in good shape. We have a toasted vehicle here, but the one in front doesn't look toasted. It's just parked upside down. So we get either toasting or flipping. Turns out John Hutchison's work, there's lift or disruption. Usually not both. Also, there's evidence of levitation on 9/11.
I came down, I was across the street, and I picked up the camera just out of habit. And something in the back of my mind said, run, run, run. And never in 20 years of shooting in New York have I run from an assignment. But something in the back of my head just said, run. And as I hit the corner of Liberty Street, it was almost being picked up by a tornado. Almost being picked up
by a wave.
It was like being picked up
with the black cloud.
That black cloud had substance. It was like night, but it had a solid feel to it. It was like gravel, hot gravel, and just picked me up and tossed me about a block. At one second I was running, and the next second I was airborne. And I lost my glasses, I lost my cell phone, I lost my pager, but managed to hold on to both cameras.
But it threw you for a block?
I was back down at Ground Zero last week and walked the area where I have a pretty good recollection of where I was and where I wound up, and it was just under a city block.
There was this blast of warm air. It wasn't hot. It was warm. And it picked me up and threw me up against the wall of the building that was...
You were picked up off the ground?
Physically picked up off the ground.
I remember an explosion. At that point, I got knocked out. I don't remember anything. Then I got up, and I looked out the window because the windows exploded, and the street below caved in.
There was also a first responder who was levitated and floated down the stairs. She didn't know how that could happen, so she thought that she must have died and had God carry her down the stairs. Because how else could she float down the stairs? John Hutchison also levitate water. He has a toy boat and an experiment he did with levitation. Often people say, oh, that's not for real. He's doing it with magnets. How do you levitate water? So I'll go on where the break was. So we're going to talk about the weather. Isn't that a nice thing to talk about? About 10 minutes to 15 minutes before the events of 9/11 began, this is what the weather chart looked like as aired. There's something missing there. The day before, here's this Category 3 hurricane aiming straight for Manhattan. I chose this image because it looks just like this recent Sandy event. Oops. And Geraldo Rivera, who brags on knowing all hurricanes, didn't know it was there.
I have been so attracted over the years to hurricane coverage, but there's risk involved. There is, the peril of not knowing what's going to happen, that adventure, and it's pitting yourself against an enemy. It's like war, only no one is shooting at you specifically. That's what the allure. But there is nary a storm that the juices don't flow, and you look and check it out.
Look at that. Remember that? When that?
Oh.
I watched that live.
And maybe a store on YouTube. You got to get up close and personal. And
this was Hurricane Ike, I think.
That was recent. That was, wasn't this Rita?
You would know.
You know what? I think it was Rita, isn't it?
Rita in Galveston, Texas. Yeah, Galveston. And, obviously Katrina before that changed so many of our histories. It was so traumatic. And it's one funny thing I think of if only a hurricane had come on 9/11. Remember, they didn't know how to use instruments, the terrorists. They took off in Boston, and they literally, after they took over the aircraft, they steered by line of sight. And it was that crystal clear September day.
Sure was.
And if it were only one of these weather days, history would have been rewritten. And I think about that a lot now, and especially this time of year.
So are you
where the peak of hurricanes is.
Yeah, you're celebrating 40 years?
40 years, imagine that. 40 years.
40 years of celebrating hurricanes.
Longevity has its own revenge.
This is
Well, I
not
don't know
right.
about that. Here again, you're asking us to deal with a fact I'm not aware of. I never heard about flames or fumes. I mean, fumes coming out of a building. I'll tell you what, first of all, let me go to Steve in Florida. Steve in Florida, you're on the air. Go ahead, please, with Dr. Judy Wood.
Hi, Joy. Thank you for taking my call. Am I
Sure.
loud and clear?
Yeah, you are. Go ahead.
Judy, you have misrepresented the facts concerning Hurricane Aaron. I live here in hurricane country, Florida. I track all the hurricanes. Aaron hit Corpus Christi, Texas, 15 August 2007. Your opinion concerning 911 are not consistent with the facts provided on 911 ripple effect, last man out, Richard Gage's blueprint for truth, loose change final cut, Zero, an investigation into 911, and many other video documentaries. I don't know what planet you've come from.
Okay. I guess he's gone. I don't know what happened to Steve.
As for Hurricane Aaron, they did not retire that name. It has been used several times. It was the first hurricane, I believe, of the 2001 hurricane season.
All right, let me go back to George. George, ask her one question that you would like to get answered.
Well, I don't think MIT does much in conspiracy theory, especially at those levels.
Is that a question?
But we do talk about.
I'll answer that one question. I'll answer one question.
If I may ask my question, I remember 9/11 very clearly, and you talk about Hurricane Aaron coming and having some effects. And I do recall almost every picture, in fact, every picture I've seen of New York on that day, the sky was blue. Clear blue, not a cloud in the sky. If you go and follow the track of her...
Do you have a question or
no, wait a second. Okay, he's asking the question about obviously about the hurricane. I never heard about the hurricane. This is hurting, I think, the situation because we can't verify some of your so-called evidence here. I mean, I'm trying to. I'm wanting to. Well, it's also that we're saying hurricanes are things that are documented.
Yeah.
And if you have it documented and nobody else does, then where did
the National Hurricane Center has it documented? This is another issue. Why is it not been publicized?
Isn't that amazing? I'd say that's pretty good evidence that it was underreported. For 4 days, it was going straight towards New York City. There was a high pressure system moving from the Midwest eastward. And the text messaging from the Weather Service said, okay, on day one, it's going to turn around today. Nope, didn't happen. Going to turn around day two. Nope, didn't happen. Third day, it's going to turn around. Didn't happen. Day four, it's going to turn around. Thank goodness it did, because it was right there in Manhattan. No more time to turn around. No more time for leeway. No more leeway for what might happen to Manhattan. You couldn't even evacuate people in time.
Well, one funny thing I think of if only a hurricane had come on 9/11. And it was that crystal clear September day.
Sure was. Beautiful.
And if it were only one of these weather days, history would have been rewritten. And I think about that a lot.
The CBS map said as nice as can be there. I superimposed where the hurricane was at that moment. And Scott Stevens, a weather reporter who realized that something was wrong with the weather, said, how much trouble does it take to just click on the icon to show a hurricane there? But this is what was shown, no hurricanes. Remember, the high pressure system was moving in, and so we have high pressure system there, and when the hurricane moved in, that's low pressure system, it started back down. Guess where it was a peak? That shows that the two weather systems met over Manhattan on 9/11 at approximately 10 o'clock in the morning. The magnetic field of the Earth was pretty uneventful until these events unfolded. We're going to look at it a little bit closer, right there. The North Tower gets its hold. Just before that, they wandered off from the average. And then the South Tower gets its hold, and they go horizontally, then Both towers go away and it's haywire all afternoon until Building 7 goes away. It's almost back to normal. Just a coincidence? Here's a close-up of this, where the North Tower gets its hole, and you can see the abrupt change. And it starts back up, and where the South Tower gets its hole, goes horizontally. John Hutchison could reproduce every one of the effects we saw at the World Trade Center. He was trying to reproduce the work of Nikola Tesla. And one thing that you might find quite interesting that he produced was metal luminance without heat. This fellow got a patent on radiant electrical energy. To hurry through this. These folks had researched it, as well as had lead scouted with this little chain, lifted blocks of brain coral that he made Coral Castle from that were 15 tons. And John Hutchison had been solid copper. Here's Coral Castle. Here's the Great Pyramid. Using this person as a scale, let's look how they're basically the same size stones. He takes a 2-inch by 2-inch by 7-inch block of iron, and it crumples up. Also, it fumes, and I compare it with WTC fuming of a door handle. The window's broken. If it was smoky, it would come out there. Solid iron. Weird fires. Here's John Hutchison's boat experiment. When the gizmo is turned off, the water's calm. That's when it ignites. Just like when the cars lit up, it was after the tower's demise. The water is calm, boat lights up. Just a plastic boat. The top two are from the WTC, the bottom two are John Hutchison's work. And this video's kind of unique. You can see the solid bar of steel wiggling on the table. There's another one where it does sit-ups. And here, watch this flat piece of steel right in this area. It starts to come apart. He also has ones where they crumble. And we have the windows with rounded holes in the outer pane. Someone can also reproduce with longitudinal waves round holes in windows. In hurricanes, you had 2x4 through tree, straw through trees. John Hutchison has a sample of a knife in aluminum. At the WTC, you have this peeling effect on the cars. This is not a laminated structure, but it peels split thickness. I didn't know what that meant until I saw John Hutchison's aluminum samples that are peeled open. WTC file cabinet, coins aren't melted. That's not melted from heat. This wood, this is John Hutchison's sample, wood embedded in aluminum. If the aluminum was hot enough to melt, if it was melting because of heat, the wood would be burned. So the aluminum melted for a different reason, or they fused together for something different. Rounded holes in Building 6, rounded holes in Hutchison samples, as though it's just something in space around a line dustifies material. The structure of a hurricane is much like a Tesla coil. Now watch what happens in a tornado as well. Here's some flying trucks.
Thank goodness, but the pictures are mind-boggling. Look at these right now. These tractor trailers we're going to show you, they look like Tonka trucks being thrown through the air right there, and then they piled up. There it is right there, right after the massive twisters. They were just flying through the air and twirling.
And entire neighborhoods were torn up. We have the roof ripped off from a home. The entire bedroom looks intact with a flat screen TV still there. Another home there, 2x4s shooting through the walls like missiles. So much of the destruction caught on tape as it happened around 1 p.m. Dallas
And again,
time.
those were deadly weapons, but no one was killed.
We've got complete coverage of the story.
Do one more and then we run out of time, so we'll end after this one. This is the flying trucks one more time here.
As it went across a transport company, trees flying through the air, semi, the trailers, there you go, a couple of semi, look at that, the beds of the trailers hurling, twirling around in the sky and then dropping down from at least 50 feet high down into the ground. We saw trees, there goes another semi.
And it's spinning.
It's spinning, down it comes, bang, lands on its nose right down at the ground. Big piece of a tree there that just got hurled up, I believe it was. So certainly we have seen a destructive tornado on the south side of Dallas, still within parts of the area near south of Grapevine, north of Arlington, a possible tornado in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, as well as over on the east side of Dallas, in toward the area around the Mesquite area, just to the west of Mesquite and east.
Levitation from a natural source. So this shows that there's a type of physics we didn't learn about in school, but it exists in nature. We're running short on time, so we're going to be finishing after this video, and I'll hand it over to Andrew.
And where this is all leading us to is that this is an energy phenomenon which underlies what happened to the World Trade Center. And it's actually energy which we could use instead of all the energy sources that we use at the moment, fossil fuels, nuclear power, and all this sort of thing. Now, some people say, well, Andrew, you know, you're all having this argument about whether it's mini nukes, thermite. That doesn't matter. The only thing we need to do is we need to, agree that the official story of 9/11 is wrong. But everything else outside of that doesn't matter. That's what we've got to convince people of. And I say to them, no, that's not correct, because what we're talking about is free energy that we could use instead of all the destructive sources of energy that we have at the moment. And that's a very important point I want to make. This is not a theory. Not a theory is not a theory. This is what actually happened. What you've seen tonight is what actually happened. It's not a theory, okay? You go onto the internet, Judy Wood's theory, Judy Wood's hypothesis. It's not a theory. It's a catalogue of evidence which shows you what happened. And by looking at what happened, you can work out what caused it. That's what Dr. Wood said at the beginning, so I just want to remind you all of that. It's very, very important that you realise that.
all the data says that some form of directed electromagnetic energy was used to basically break down the materials of the World Trade Center. And the connections that Jones has between the cold fusion experience that everybody can read about in Dr. Malaw's book and with what's going on right now with the 9/11 situation it's just a mirror image of him muddling up, and then trying to get public opinion against whoever his target is. In this case, it's Dr. Judy Wood. In the previous case, it was Pons and Fleischman.
Richplanet TV is coming to a town near you. In May 2013, I will be travelling around the UK speaking at the following places: Gateshead, Glasgow, Leeds, Liverpool, Birmingham, Weston-super, Southampton, Reading and London. I'll be covering recent UFO reports, which is not to be missed, and exposing a range of issues you won't find discussed on mainstream TV. Get ticket details from the richplanet.net website.